Hey, it's Craig Syracusa, and welcome to another episode of Walk in Faith, the show where we go beyond the image and we discover who our guests really are. You might know them from TV, the big screen, or even the world of sports, but do we really know who they are as a person? Do we know what motivates them? Do we know what inspires them? Well, that's what we're here to find out.
On this special episode of Walk in Faith, we'll get to hear from the cast and crew of the new thriller, Operation Finale.
The plot of the film follows a group of Israeli Mossad agents in 1960 as they discover that Adolf Eichmann, who was one of the architects of the final solution during the Holocaust in Nazi Germany, is found to be living in Argentina.
One way to look at it is that it's a story about a boy and a girl who meet and have a date.
I play Sylvia Herman. She was a young woman who was in a relationship with Klaus, Adolf Eichmann's son, not knowing that he was Adolf Eichmann's son, and also not knowing the truth about her and who she is and her identity. She was raised by her father as a German, but really her father was a Holocaust survivor.
And then the girl's father realizes that the boy's father is a Nazi war criminal who's hiding in Argentina. That's what sets the plot in motion.
It's not about superheroes. It's about really regular people that are doing something irregular in irregular circumstances.
We have our guy, it's Adolf Eichmann.
Let's go!
This is a country full of ex-Nazis.
They're all over the city.
Start the engine.
Adolf Eichmann was less famous than Hitler, but equally lethal and horrific a figure in the Holocaust.
I'm offering you a fair trial. You want me to stand trial in place of an entire regime?
Eichmann used to say, I was a small cog in the machine, but actually he was the machine.
He was a very ambitious, manipulative person, and the extent of his crimes are not covered just by someone who followed orders.
What compels me to play Adolf Eichmann is the true story of the capturing of a monster and honoring all that monster's victims.
The mission is to tell the story of Operation Finale, of the capture, because the capture goes together with the trial. And this is maybe one of the most important story of the Jewish people, the story of the Holocaust. And we must tell this story again and again. When we say never again, we have to explain to the young generation what does it mean never again.
Eichmann, the architect of the Holocaust, has been found. A call comes into the Mossad that he is in Argentina. A group is assembled to go to Buenos Aires. I played Peter Malkin, who wrote a book called Eichmann in My Hands.
If it is him, we need an elite crew.
I'm not joining your hit squad. I'm playing Hannah, and I'm part of the Mossad team.
A bullet would be easier than dragging him here.
Eichmann will stand trial here in Israel. I play Rafi Eitan, who is a Mossad agent and organized the team of people who went to extract Eichmann.
That's where you grab him.
Everybody from that team has a major job to do.
If you're feeling any kind of danger whatsoever, you get out.
Of course, nothing went exactly how they wanted.
Policía! Hide him, quickly.
The search for him, the hunt for him, the terrible risks involved.
We have to warn the others. Let's go.
All of this is absolutely thrilling.
Senor.
This is a big screen spectacle that will leave you tense and laughing and crying and will make you want to go see the movie right away. It is just such a full meal of a movie that needs to be experienced on the big screen, needs to be experienced with an audience, and is the rare movie that has the roller coaster of emotions and is deeply and genuinely gratifying in a way that I think rarely we can find in a movie theater these days. And I'm just so excited for people to see it.
You have no interest in what I have to say.
unless it confirms what you think you already know. My job was simple. Save the country I love from being destroyed. Is your job any different?
I have a lead on the great enemy of our people.
Adolf Eichmann.
The architect of the final solution?
The trail went cold in '46. Latest intelligence suggests Buenos Aires.
This guy convinced rabbis to load the trains themselves, and not by force.
If it is him, we need an elite crew.
I'm not joining your hit squad.
I would happily put a bullet in between his eyes, but that's not what we're doing here. This is strictly catch and extract.
Eichmann will stand trial here in Israel.
Think what it means. Finally, publicly, holding to account the man who organized our slaughter.
Our memory reaches back through recorded history. The book of memory still lies open. And you, here now, are the hand that holds the pen. If you succeed, for the first time in our history, we will judge our executioner. And we will warn off any who may wish to follow his example. If you fail, he escapes justice, perhaps forever. I beg you, do not fail.
We'll be back with Sir Ben Kingsley and some of the cast and crew of the film, Operation Finale.
I am Ricardo Clement.
Do you recognize the man in this picture?
I can't see him clearly.
The man in this picture is you. SS number 45381. Am I correct? Again, your number was 45381. Your number was 45381. 45381. 45381.
It was 45326. Enough accept my fate. My name is Adolf Eichmann.
Sir Ben,
Craig,
this is
nice
nice
to see
to
you.
meet you. I know you're going to hear this all day. Amazing performance.
Well, not from you. I mean, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. One thing, I had the opportunity, I saw the CBS interview, and it really had an impact on me, especially when I heard about how you sort of dedicated, the performance to, it was Elie Wiesel. It was beautiful. I mean, can you tell me a little bit about that story, and do you still carry that photo around with you?
I have my bag somewhere. I think it's there. It's in there.
It's with you.
Yes. I had opportunity to be with Elie 3 times, and the last time he paid me a great compliment, and coming from him, it was something I deeply treasure, where he referred to me as a lover of truth and memory, and I, in turn, was able to say to him that the next time I walk onto a film set that is appropriate to his story and his memory, I will dedicate my performance to him. Shortly after he passed, Chris Weitz offered me this role, and I realized that here was my opportunity to say to the world, as Elie constantly tried to, I am sorry, boys and girls, but this really did happen. And we mustn't deny that it happened. We must try and assimilate it into our DNA and move on. as better human beings. And that process of assimilation, which is why I believe we have so many films that deal with this subject, is taking way too long. But maybe these things take time. They are on a biblical scale. The murder of 6 million is incomprehensible. And the aftershocks felt by Europe and the world in general will take a long time, if ever, to settle. And these actions between 1933 and 1945 will never be understood. Nevertheless, men did this to other men. And Eichmann was proud of what he did, but what is even more extraordinary is that in spite of that vicious standpoint that he maintained to his dying day, the Mossad got him to Israel and put him on trial. They did not shoot him like a dog, and that shows enormous restraint. This is a thriller, and it has a wonderful redemptive ending where their wish to bring him to justice, as said beautifully by Simon Russell Beale as Ben Gurion, it's a beautiful performance, their wish was fulfilled. They managed to convey that creature, that human.
Exactly.
A human to, it's hard to believe, but he was not a creature. He did not land from Mars. That human, they got him to trial.
Yeah, I know that was something that I watching the film, I walked away saying, even our enemies deserve love and compassion. And it really touched me, just watching the performance. And seeing you holding your son and watching the train, it sort of resonated with me, and I think it'll resonate with a lot of people. You humanized the character.
Well, unfortunately, I didn't. He was a human being. There was nothing I could do about it, I'm afraid. And also, I think you are more highly evolved than I am. I'm not at the stage where I can show my enemies love and compassion. Not enemies like him. I can't do it. Sorry.
No. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Let's say a two-shot film. One shows in first mark. Yes. It can be a two-shot.
Thank you so much. You know, as I was watching the movie, I was like, I really wanted to see you guys get together throughout the film. Like, it was such a great chemistry. I really wish you would have. But when you were doing research, yeah, I wish something would have changed, but maybe in the second one. But as you were doing research on the film, was there anything that sort of inspired you or shocked you when you were doing research as you were developing the characters?
It was all kind of new to me, the whole story. I didn't know about any of it beforehand. So the whole thing was kind of an amazing and eye-opening discovery. I knew of Eichmann's name, but I didn't know the specifics of his story or quite who he was or what he was responsible for. And I didn't know about the kind of the kidnapping, extraction mission and the trial. So it was all kind of new to me, I think.
Yeah, same. I only knew little. I knew only little about the whole thing, and being able to read the script and so much of it being accurate, and then doing the research about it, I feel like I'm wiser.
Yeah. No, it was me too. I wasn't familiar with the story, and then when I saw it, it had such an impact on me. I mean, after each project, I know for me, I like to sit and reflect and think about what I gained from that or what experience. What would you say you walked away with after this film?
Just like even a new level of understanding of the importance of just looking at people for people, like the person that they are. I just find it really heartbreaking that there are these other factors that have nothing to do with a person's soul that makes you decide whether you're going to be with them or not, or whether you're going to kill them or not, So I think that, just the importance of that.
Yeah, it made me think the same thing. Just watching it, and especially some of the scenes when you see Eichmann with with the kids, with you, or the baby, just holding him and showing that human side of him. You start to sort of have like some compassion for him, and it really
a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
But it's cool that the movie invites you to do that. It kind of challenges you to find a little bit of empathy for him. And
and I think what's great about it is his performance is that it's very human. It's not just a 2D kind of baddie, although obviously he's a unspeakable person. You do see him in that light as a family man and someone who cares and loves his children, and he does pose interesting questions to talk about as to, you know, at what point he is culpable, at what point he is just following orders. It's lots of it's an interesting debate.
I agree. It's a lot to think about, especially, you know, when you see him in that light and his interaction with his wife and the roses.
And thinking about the kids who are raised that way, and that's what they think is good. Like, you know how we're taught from our parents, this is right and this is wrong. Like, he was taught the exact opposite. So also finding kind of the empathy for that, like, obviously there's a bad guy and there are the good guys, but
It's difficult.
Yeah.
The kids have to sort of break the cycle.
yeah, how do you do that when that's all you know?
Yeah, it's interesting. He had 4 children in real life, I think, and 3 of them said they want nothing to do with him anymore. Or I don't know if they're all alive still, but Klaus was the one who followed in.
Were they the younger children?
I guess so.
That's interesting, because you probably had already attached to you,
too.
Klaus.
Well, I'm glad you're not like that in real life. You guys did a great performance. Like I
Thank
said,
you.
I wish I would have so you guys connect, but
Thanks.
thank you so much.
Thanks.
God bless you guys.
We'll be back with more Walk in Faith right after this.
Is this about the Astapalia thing? Because to be honest, I've read maybe 70% of the briefing.
No, it is not.
Okay, good, because it's more like 30%. Finale.
Aharoni's out there now running reconnaissance in Buenos Aires with our guy at the embassy.
Our contact's daughter, Sylvia Herrmann, has agreed to take us to Klaus Eichmann's family home. If it is Eichmann, they will attempt to get a positive photo ID.
Why didn't you ask me? Aharoni's an interrogator.
Precisely. I wanted someone who would interrogate the evidence rather than just shoot at it. This is strictly catch and extract.
Raph, if it is him, a bullet would be easier than dragging him here.
Eichmann will stand trial here in Israel.
Trial? Nobody needs to hear what he has to say.
The Prime Minister disagrees. A trial will help put all of this to bed. After all, not everyone's as emotionally balanced as you are. Peter, it isn't about you, okay?
Okay, I'm in.
Thank you, guys. It's honestly a pleasure to meet you. Nick, I was watching the film. I mean, there's a little bit of comedy here and there, but you mostly do comedy. Was it difficult for you to sort of transition or to tap into those type of emotions?
You know, it wasn't. For me, even when I'm doing comedy, I'm trying to do it as sort of honest to what the character and story requires, and I think in doing a drama, there are comedic moments, just like there are in life. Even in the most serious moments, there are funny things that happen, and I think in the funniest things that I've seen, there's drama in there. So I try to bring both to whatever project I'm working on.
And Lior, I mean, you have some, you know, real life experience in that field. When you were sort of diving into the character, did you use some of your personal sort of experiences or emotions? And can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I used to be in Israel in the special forces, so I know commanders and I know how the big commanders are acting, and so I tried to put myself in this position. I was never a big commander, you know. So I would try to put myself in this position, and I knew Issa Rahel. He was famous in Israel as a big, a powerful man, and this character I tried to bring myself into, but after that, you understand that you have to let go and to be just yourself and to try to bring yourself into this character.
And on each project that, you know, I do, or I guess we all do, I sort of think about or reflect on why, you know, what did I learn from this experience, or what did I gain? What would you say you sort of learned from this experience, or if there's something that maybe changed you within?
First of all, I think that as an Israeli, we are growing up all the time with the Holocaust memories, and we talk about it all the time, we learn about it all the time. And I think it's important that people all over the world will understand it happened it's like 75 years ago. It's nothing, and it could happen today. It's happening actually today. Every day there is genocide, there is racism, there is anti-Semitism. You see in Syria what's going on now every day. So I think it's so important, and I think for us it was kind of I don't know how to say it in English, but it was we tried to do all our best to bring to the set and to this movie, because we know it's important now as it was important then.
I agree. Did you have anything that you sort of walked away with, or something that?
Similar to what Lior said, and I think one of the things the film is trying to figure out and talk about is when you are when you have an opportunity, do you seek justice or do you seek revenge? And I think this film is a proponent of seeking justice, and I think that's a very interesting distinction that applies to any number of things now, and how we proceed with our friends and with our enemies.
I agree. I said yesterday to someone, I said, the film made me think even your enemies deserve love and compassion.
Yes.
And it talks about forgiveness. So,
Right,
but thank
absolutely.
you.
Thank
Wonderful
you so much.
film. Good
Thank
luck,
you.
guys. God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless.
Nice meeting you.
Pleasure.
Here's what we should do. These gentlemen here, just for this one. Oscar with double, then we cover the parts where we would see Sir Ben. The rest of the part we can actually be much more physical than we would be, right? Or lifting up and stuff and motion. Action!
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you for having me.
Love the film. I really did. Get
Thank
ready
you.
for your Oscar speech. It was amazing. I mean,
Very
I've
kind.
seen a lot of your films, you know. When you were working on this film, especially, it's a little bit different from some of your other films.
Right.
What was sort of like, well, first of all, how did you know it was right for you? Like, what did something click inside where you said, this is right for me and I want to dive into this?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up with all these issues, talking with my dad, who had been a German Jewish refugee, who was also a veteran. He'd served in World War II in counterintelligence. So the Nazi Party was his area of expertise, right? So I grew up talking about all of these issues with him when I was a kid. So I kind of felt spring-loaded for this movie.
Wow. And what would you say when you were sort of doing research? Was there anything that really stuck out with you, or something that sort of clicked that you used within the film?
There were two things. One is that Adolf Eichmann, as well as being a Nazi, was a kind of an ambitious middle manager type trying to move up in the organization, right? He was an opportunist. And hate movements like the Nazis provide opportunities for ambitious people to move up in the world, and they can end up doing terrible, terrible things. And the other thing is that the Mossad team that went in to extract him decided not to use guns. They didn't want to commit violence while they were extracting Eichmann, and they showed tremendous restraint in having this mass murderer in their hands who've been responsible for millions of deaths. And their commitment to extract him and put him on trial is really extraordinary.
I agree, and what you showed in the film, which I picked up on, was sort of like even our enemies deserve compassion and love. It showed just the way Peter's relationship and how he sort of needed that forgiveness to sort of process the death of his sister, and that relationship. Which a lot of that, like if you dive into it, which maybe it was just me, I saw there was a lot of symbolism, and I said, wow, and I walked away really thinking like, it really had an impact on me.
Well, thanks. I
don't
appreciate
know if that
that.
was.
No, I think that the way that Peter Malkin, the guy who grabbed Eichmann, was able to beat Eichmann was by treating him like a human being, by exposing his family past and his deep pain in order to extract from Eichmann what he needed, which was a signed agreement to go on trial in Israel. And it was that degree of human identification, even with a man who had done terrible things, that allowed justice to be served.
See, and I saw it that way, and I saw it even deeper, where it was like those two individuals were there for the reason was for Peter to process that. So it was like you put those two characters together, and you saw their relationship, and as his relationship started to grow, he processed his sister's death, and that was the only way he could move forward, by forgiveness.
I think it took tremendous courage on Peter Malkin's part to expose his wounds to the man who in some way had been responsible for them. That was an extraordinary act of ethical and moral courage.
Yeah, you did a wonderful job.
Oh, thank you.
Be watching you in the Oscars.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Operation Finale. You know, I had the opportunity, as you could see, to sit down with Sir Ben Kingsley, the director, and some of the cast. And when I got the call, I was a little concerned. I said, wow, this is a huge opportunity to sit down with Sir Ben Kingsley and to work on this huge film, which I think will be up for an Academy Award, but that's just me. I said, let me find a reason why I could say no. Of course, I didn't. I realized that God gives me these opportunities for a reason, so I went ahead and I said yes. I knew a little bit about, the subject matter. I wasn't familiar with Eichmann or the fact that he was the architect and was responsible for, ordering the killing of 6 million people. But I sat down, I had sort of an opinion on the film already, an opinion on the character, and then the opening scene, you see Eichmann at home with his family holding a baby. And I said, whoa, this is not what I expected. I was expecting, more of a Schindler's List. I was expecting something different. I was expecting somebody completely different from what I saw in the opening scene. And I started to figure, wanted to know more about who Eichmann was. And as the film progresses and, the Israeli forces come in and they kidnap him, let's say, and they bring him back and they want to bring him back to Israel to stand trial, in every scene you expect they're going to hurt him, they're going to, do some sort of, they interrogate him, and they don't. They treat him with love and respect and compassion. And it was very different from what I expected. I mean, that would be justifiable, right? And someone's eyes would say, yeah, the Israeli forces had the right to hurt him and injure him and interrogate him, but they didn't. They treated him like a human being. They knew and they had faith in the justice system. They had faith in what they were doing, and they had a lot of family members that were killed during that time. So it was very difficult for them. And one of the main characters actually sort of builds a relationship with him and sits and listens to him and starts to, I don't want to say understands, but starts to get inside of the reasoning why he did it. He doesn't, not that any of us will ever agree with it or condone it, but he sits and he listens to him. And the takeaway from the film that I got was, one is to show our enemies, and even our enemies do deserve love and compassion and forgiveness. One of the main characters was struggling with something internally, and it was about forgiveness. He needed to forgive in order for him to move forward, in order for him to sort of move on with his life, and he needed closure. It was an amazing film, and I do recommend it. Great story. I'd love to hear your feedback too. If anyone has the opportunity to see the film, I'd love to hear back from you. And like always, thank you for walking with us. Stay tuned till next week, and always remember, you have the ability to inspire and evangelize through your words and actions. Thank you.